With everything going on in the world right now, I really wanted to revisit one of the best and most relevant films to come out of the 80s, Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. This film goes over racial tensions and police brutality, and is inspired by real-world incidents similar to the ones still happening to this day. I won't really be going over it so much for its filmmaking aspects, though those I will acknowledge are great. I particularly like the production design, costumes, acting, and cinematography. The film is set in a New York City block on the hottest day of the year. We see the different inhabitants of the block who are predominantly African American, though there is a Korean family, Latinos, and a long-ran Italian-owned pizzeria. Most of the film follows Mookie, played by Lee, a delivery boy for the pizzeria. The pizzeria is owned and ran by Sal, played by Danny Aiello, and his sons Vito, played by Richard Edson, and Pino, played by John Turturro. Sal generally treats Mookie well and essentially accepts him into the family, and Vito sees him similarly, but Pino has some reservations brought on by unacceptance of their racial differences. Through Mookie's deliveries, we meet the other members of the neighborhood. We meet DeMayer, played by Ozzie Davis, who is a drunk old man but is respected by Mookie for his wise words, and he tells Mookie to always do the right thing. We also meet Radio Raheem, played by Bill Nunn, who carries around a boombox that always plays Public Enemy's Fight the Power, and wears rings that say love and hate. Raheem tells Mookie the story of love and hate, how they're always at odds, fighting it out. We meet Buggin' Out, played by Giancarlo Esposito, a man proud of his heritage who is frustrated with the direction the neighborhood is headed. Smiley, played by Roger Smith, is a man with a learning disability, but a great passion for his heroes Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., two representatives of the story of hate and love. There are other characters who weave in and out of the story, but these ones are who I believe play the biggest part in Mookie's arc. Throughout the day we see how hot it is getting and how tough it is on everyone. The rising heat is representative of the rising tensions on the block. At one point the neighborhood children start playing in water from a fire hydrant. This not only quenches the heat, but cools some of the frustrations of the populace, as everyone gets to relax for a moment and is enjoying this fun in the water, until the cops come and put an end to it, showing they maintain control over the neighborhood. The Italian family has some underlying racial tendencies, but Mookie puts up with it because he works for them, and they have always been good to him and his sister, though Mookie feels sometimes Sal is too good to his sister. Some of the other inhabitants don't share Mookie's passive outlook, such as Buggin' Out and Radio Raheem, who start acting out towards the Italians. Buggin' Out is disappointed that Sal doesn't put any pictures of famous African Americans in the restaurant, despite it being a black neighborhood and all of his customers are African American. Radio Raheem wants to have his boombox playing in the restaurant, as it played through the entire film. When the two come in to confront Sal about this, Mookie takes the path of love and tries to de-escalate the situation, but Sal takes a baseball bat and destroys Radio Raheem's boombox. This starts a fight between the two of them, which moves out into the streets where the cops come. The cops should be breaking up the fight and defusing the situation, but they only target the people of color involved, teaming up against Radio Raheem and choking him, eventually to death, while all those around shout, "You're killing him!" Much of the crowd gets angry with Sal for causing the death of Radio Raheem, and Mookie, who has chosen the side of Dr. King in love, finally reaches his boiling point. He picks up a trash can, yells "hate," and throws it through the window of Sal's pizzeria, meaning he'll lose his job, but make his point heard. This starts a riot, and the pizzeria gets burnt down. Instead of ending there, Lee chooses to show how, despite what happened, the neighborhood must continue. The next day, Mookie goes back to his now burnt work to collect his last paycheck. We know Sal will be fine as the insurance will cover his losses, but now Mookie will have to find a new source of income. This shows that Mookie didn't care about the financial repercussions, and starting the riot was more about being heard and making a change to be taken more seriously. This obviously has a lot of similarities to the George Floyd murder, as well as many others: Michael Stewart, Amadou Diallo, Sean Bell, Eric Garner, Tony McDade, the list goes on, and the subsequent protests. In the case of Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee makes a point of showing the philosophies of Dr. King being peaceful pacifists in your protests, and Malcolm X being aggressive and violent when necessary. Spike Lee has said that at the time, and even more so now, he has sided with Malcolm X, since the peaceful way had become too normalized and people had just become less outwardly racist. I think real life supports this. For an example, look at the NFL. Colin Kaepernick peacefully protested by kneeling during the national anthem, which, similarly to Mookie, led to him losing his job. While his actions got a lot of attention, it didn't really move the needle at all. The NFL refused to support Kaepernick when he took a peaceful path, but now after the riots, a Malcolm X approach, they have released a statement in support of Black Lives Matter. And while it feels like too little too late, it does go to show the power the violent approach had. This is not to say I support the violence, but I support taking a stronger stance in order to be heard. A lot of people question whether Mookie did the right thing, and to me it was no question at all. Yes, it doesn't really solve anything, yes, it sets him back, but it was a reaction to the constant racism he and the rest of the neighborhood received. And at some point, you have to make a statement and take a stance to make yourself heard. So to me, the real question is, did the protesters in Minnesota and the rest of the United States do the right thing? I'm not sure yet, but in both cases I know who did the wrong thing. The cops that murdered innocent people, and the ones that stood by and let it happen. I didn't really want to go into such political topics on my channel, but this is too important of a topic to ignore, so I'm speaking out in my own way, through film. I ask that others do the same, whether you're a writer, painter, musician, anything. Just express yourself on this important matter. I've been lucky in my life to come from a place of privilege, and I try my best to understand the struggles of those around me, but the truth is I'll never know what it is like to be in the shoes of minorities and those that feel targeted by or unsafe from the police. All I can do is try to be better and help others to get there as well. One first step you can make is by getting informed. Try checking out the website that I've put in the description. And if you haven't seen the film, I suggest you do. It might be one of the most important films of all time.